Picture this: Rome, 177 AD. The empire is crumbling under the weight of plague, war, and betrayal. At the center of it all stands Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, writing by candlelight not battle plans, but private notes to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These words weren't just philosophy, they were survival tools. While his world burned, Marcus built an unshakable inner fortress. And here's the secret: he wasn't special, he trained. That's what Stoicism is really about. Not dusty textbooks, but 30 battle-tested techniques to master what modern coaches call your inner game, the mental toughness, clarity, and resilience that separate those who thrive from those who break. Think of it as an operating system for your mind, forged in the fires of real adversity. Over the next minutes, you'll discover how Stoic practices can rewire your reactions to stress, rejection, and chaos. How imagining the worst-case scenario can actually set you free. Why billionaire investors and elite athletes still use Marcus's journaling method, and the counterintuitive trick to turning obstacles into rocket fuel. This isn't abstract theory, it's a toolkit, and by the end, you'll have 3 techniques you can test today, starting with the one Stoic rule that instantly cuts anxiety in half. Let's begin. Now, let's dive into the first and perhaps most transformative Stoic practice, the dichotomy of control. Imagine standing at the edge of a stormy sea. The waves crash violently, the wind howls, but your job isn't to calm the ocean. Your job is to steady the ship. That's the essence of this principle. Stoicism teaches us to split the world into 2 categories: what we control and what we don't. Our thoughts, our actions, our efforts, fully ours. External outcomes, other people's opinions, even our own bodies as they age. Not entirely in our hands. Here's why this matters. Anxiety thrives when we waste energy trying to command the uncontrollable. The promotion you didn't get, the traffic jam making you late, the rude comment from a stranger, none of these respond to your demands. But your interpretation of them, that's your domain. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly: you don't have to turn this into something, it doesn't have to upset you. Try this exercise next time stress hits. Pause and ask, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release. A musician can't force applause, but they can practice daily. An athlete can't guarantee victory, but they can train relentlessly. By shifting focus to your sphere of influence, you drain power from distractions and pour it into progress. This isn't passivity, it's precision. The Stoics weren't saying ignore external challenges, they were saying meet them with clear-eyed focus on where you truly hold sway. That's how you build mental resilience, not by avoiding storms, but by knowing exactly which ropes to pull when they come. And this sets the stage for our next tool, because once you stop fighting uncontrollable winds, you'll discover an even more surprising way to harness them. Now, let's explore a Stoic practice that might seem counterintuitive at first: negative visualization, or what the ancient Stoics called premeditatio malorum. Picture this: you're about to step onto a stage to give a speech. Your heart races, palms sweat. But what if, instead of pushing those nerves away, you leaned into them? What if you imagined the worst, forgetting your lines, the audience laughing, complete silence? At first glance, that sounds like inviting panic, but here's the twist. By mentally rehearsing these scenarios, you strip them of their power. The Stoics didn't do this to dwell on fear, they did it to disarm it. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." When you visualize losing your job, your health, even a loved one, you accomplish 2 things. First, you realize you'd survive. The mind adapts. Second, you suddenly appreciate what you have right now deeply, urgently. That's why Roman generals would have their victory parades include a slave whispering in their ear, "Remember, you are mortal," not to kill joy, but to sharpen it. Try this tonight before bed. Spend 5 minutes imagining life without something you take for granted: your sight, your home, your closest relationship. Feel that ache. That's gratitude being forged. And when real challenges come, you'll face them differently because you've already walked through the fire in your mind. The athlete who's visualized missing the shot is calmer when it happens. The leader who's imagined failure responds with clarity, not shock. This practice isn't pessimism, it's emotional armor. By regularly confronting what scares us, we build a resilience that doesn't crumble under pressure. And that prepares us perfectly for the next Stoic tool, one that transforms obstacles into something far more powerful. Now let's shift our focus to one of the most empowering Stoic principles, Amor Fati, or the love of fate. Imagine you're a wrestler stepping onto the mat. Your opponent's strength isn't something to fear, it's the very resistance that will make you stronger. The Stoics saw life the same way. Every obstacle, every setback wasn't a roadblock, it was the path itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's the heart of Amor Fati. When you lose a job, it's not just a loss, it's a push toward a new direction you might never have considered. When a relationship ends, it's not just pain, it's space for growth you didn't have before. The Stoics didn't just accept fate, they loved it. They embraced it like a wrestler embraces the struggle, knowing it's the only way to grow. Think of Thomas Edison. When his lab burned down, destroying years of work, he didn't collapse in despair. He said, "All our mistakes are burned up, now we can start fresh." That's Amor Fati in action. The fire wasn't a tragedy, it was an opportunity. Here's how to practice this today. Next time something goes wrong, a missed train, a failed project, a harsh critique, pause and ask, how is this helping me? Not in a naive, toxic positivity way, but with real curiosity. Maybe the delay gives you time to think. Maybe the failure teaches you what not to do next time. Maybe the criticism reveals a blind spot. This mindset doesn't just soften blows, it turns them into fuel. The athlete who loves the grind gets stronger. The artist who loves the revisions creates masterpieces. And when you start seeing obstacles as opportunities, you'll find yourself not just enduring life, but thriving in it. And that resilience sets the stage for our next Stoic tool, one that pulls the camera back, showing you how small today's struggles really are in the grand scheme of things. Now let's step back, way back, and explore a Stoic practice that changes how you see everything. It's called the view from above, and it's like hitting the zoom out button on your life. Picture this: you're stuck in traffic, frustrated, late for a meeting. Now imagine rising above it, literally. See your car from 100 feet up, then 1,000, then from space. Suddenly, that traffic jam, a tiny speck on a vast planet. This is what Marcus Aurelius did daily. He'd visualize himself looking down on Earth from the stars, watching human dramas unfold like ants scurrying below. Why? To shrink ego and amplify perspective. That argument that felt world-ending from space, it's a blip, that rejection that stung, a fleeting moment in cosmic time. Here's how to use it. When stress hits, close your eyes and mentally pull back. See your city, then your country, then the swirling blue marble of Earth. Notice how small your worries seem against oceans, continents, and the endless sky. This isn't about dismissing your feelings, it's about grounding them in reality. Scientists even back this up. Astronauts who see Earth from orbit often experience the overview effect, a profound shift in priorities. Petty conflicts fade. What remains? The big stuff: connection, purpose, the fragility of our shared home. You don't need a rocket to get there. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago. Try it tonight. Stand outside, look at the stars and ask, will this matter in a year, a century? The view from above doesn't just calm you, it clarifies what's worth your energy. And that clarity primes you for our next tool, one that turns daily chaos into structured strength. Now, let's bring things down to earth with a practice that turns ink into insight, journaling like a Stoic. This isn't just writing down your day. It's a structured three-part ritual that sharpens your mind, aligns your actions, and keeps you anchored to what truly matters. First, morning preparation. Before the chaos of the day begins, take 5 minutes to ask yourself 2 questions. What challenges might I face today? And how can I meet them with wisdom and courage? This isn't about predicting the future. It's about preemptively framing your mindset. Imagine a boxer visualizing their moves before stepping into the ring. You're doing the same, but for life's daily rounds. Next, evening review. As the day winds down, reflect on 3 things. Where did you act with virtue? Where did you fall short, and what lessons can you carry forward? Be honest but kind. This isn't self-judgment, it's self-improvement. Seneca did this nightly, calling it examining the wounds of the soul to heal them. Think of it as mental hygiene, brushing away the day's debris so you wake up clearer. Finally, reflection on role models. Pick a historical or personal figure who embodies traits you admire, maybe Marcus Aurelius's calm or a mentor's resilience. Write how they'd handle your current struggles. This bridges philosophy and action, turning abstract ideals into practical guidance. Why does this work? Science shows journaling reduces stress and boosts problem solving, but Stoics knew it deeper. Writing forces clarity. Thoughts that swirl in your head gain shape on paper. Try it for a week. Keep it simple: a notebook, a pen, and 3 intentional moments. You'll find what Epictetus meant when he said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." And just as ink dries on the page, this practice sets the stage for our next tool, one that confronts life's most uncomfortable truth to unlock unparalleled focus. Now, let's step into a practice that might seem unsettling at first, but holds the key to unlocking extraordinary clarity: Memento Mori, the Stoic art of remembering death. This isn't about fear or morbidity. It's about using the awareness of life's brevity as a whetstone to sharpen your purpose. Picture this: the ancient Romans kept skulls on their desks, not as decorations but as reminders. You could leave life right now, Marcus Aurelius wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That's the power of Memento Mori. When you confront the fact that your time is limited, suddenly, the distractions, the petty arguments, the endless scrolling, the approval-seeking start to dissolve. What remains? The work that matters, the relationships that nourish, the growth that defines you. Here's how to practice it without gloom. Each morning, take 30 seconds to silently acknowledge, today could be my last. Then ask, if it were, would I be proud of how I spend it? This isn't meant to paralyze you, it's meant to energize you. Think of it like a deadline for your potential. Just as a writer produces their best work under a due date, you'll find urgency fuels your finest actions. History's most resilient figures used this tool. Steve Jobs famously said death was life's single best invention because it cleared away the unimportant. The Stoics agreed. Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." By keeping mortality in view, you stop postponing what's essential. That project you've delayed, the apology you've avoided, the risk you're too scared to take. Memento Mori whispers, do it now. And here's the paradox: embracing death doesn't diminish life, it intensifies it. When trivial worries arise, ask, will this matter in 5 years? On my deathbed, if not, let it go. This practice isn't about darkness, it's about light. The light that comes from living as if every moment counts. With this perspective sharpening your focus, we're ready to explore a practice that trains your body and mind to thrive in discomfort, voluntary hardship, the Stoic gym for resilience. Now let's shift gears to a practice that might seem counterintuitive at first: voluntary discomfort. This is where Stoicism takes resilience training from theory to action. Think of it like a mental and physical gym where you deliberately choose hardship to build strength. The Stoics didn't just preach about enduring life's challenges, they actively sought them out. Why? Because comfort is the enemy of growth. Take cold showers, for example. That initial shock of icy water isn't just a wake-up call for your body, it's a masterclass in self-control. Your instinct is to flinch, to retreat, but when you stay under that cold stream, you're teaching your mind, discomfort won't break me. The same goes for fasting. Skipping a meal isn't about punishment, it's about proving to yourself that hunger doesn't dictate your actions. You realize, I can endure more than I thought. And then there's sleeping on the floor. It's not about masochism, it's about resetting your baseline. When you voluntarily give up your mattress, you're reminding yourself, luxury is optional, not essential. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum in reverse. Instead of imagining worst-case scenarios, you're living mini versions of them. By doing so, you strip away the fear of hardship. When real adversity hits, a job loss, a rejection, a failure, you've already built the muscle to handle it. History's toughest minds used this method. The Roman general Scipio Africanus trained his army by marching them through harsh terrain before battles, saying, "The more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war." Modern science backs this up. Studies show that controlled exposure to stress, like cold therapy or intermittent fasting, boosts resilience by triggering antifragility. That's the ability to not just survive chaos but thrive in it. Here's how to start small. Pick one discomfort: cold showers, a 24-hour fast, or a night without your pillow, and schedule it like an appointment. When the moment comes, notice the urge to quit, then lean in. The goal isn't to suffer, it's to witness your own power. As Epictetus put it, difficulties show what men are. Every time you choose discomfort, you're not just building tolerance, you're rewriting your relationship with struggle. And with that newfound toughness, we're ready to explore another Stoic superpower: the ability to strip away emotional judgments and see reality with crystal clarity. Now, let's step into the Stoic practice of objective judgment, a mental tool that cuts through the noise of emotional reactions to reveal the bare facts of any situation. Imagine you receive an email that instantly makes your blood boil. Your heart races, your jaw clenches, and your mind starts spinning stories about disrespect or injustice. Here's where Stoicism intervenes with a game-changing question. What actually happened? Not your interpretation, not the drama your mind is weaving, just the raw event. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly: take away your opinion, and then there is no "I was hurt." Remove the "I was hurt," and the hurt itself disappears. That email, it's just words on a screen. The traffic jam, just cars stopped on a road. The real suffering comes from the layers of meaning we pile onto these events. Stoics call this the discipline of assent, the moment between an external event and your internal reaction, where true freedom lies. Think of it like a courtroom. The facts are the evidence, and your judgments are the prosecutor spinning a case. A Stoic acts as the impartial judge, demanding, "Show me proof, not interpretation." When you master this, setbacks lose their emotional fangs. A project failure isn't proof I'm incompetent. It's simply a result that didn't meet expectations. A critical comment isn't an attack, it's feedback you can choose to use or discard. Epictetus trained his students with this drill. When you hear about someone insulting you, pause and ask, "How do I know this is truly harmful?" Often, you'll find the answer isn't in the event but in your own assumptions. Modern psychology echoes this. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches that our thoughts, not events, dictate our emotions. By practicing objective judgment, you're not suppressing feelings, you're preventing unnecessary ones from hijacking your peace. Try this today. The next time stress flares up, strip the situation down to its bare components. Say aloud, "The facts are," and list only what's undeniable. Then notice how much lighter the weight feels when you're not carrying the extra baggage of your judgments. As Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And with that clarity, we're ready to explore another Stoic skill: the power of pausing before reacting, a practice that turns impulsive heat into deliberate action. Now, let's take this idea of objective judgment one step further with the Stoic discipline of assent. a mental pause button that gives you the power to choose your response instead of being hijacked by raw emotion. Picture this: you're scrolling through your inbox when a message hits you like a punch to the gut. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to fire back. But Stoicism whispers a crucial question: do I have to agree with this reaction? The discipline of assent is about that split-second gap between what happens and how you respond. Epictetus called impressions, those initial sparks of anger, fear, or excitement, just that, impressions. They're not commands. You have the power to say, I see this feeling, but I don't have to act on it. Think of it like a bouncer at the door of your mind, checking each emotional impulse before letting it in. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. When his advisors frustrated him, he'd mentally step back and ask, what part of this is truly within my control? By pausing, he avoided the trap of knee-jerk reactions that could have escalated conflicts or clouded his decisions. Modern neuroscience backs this up. That brief delay activates the prefrontal cortex, your brain's rational CEO, over the amygdala's emotional alarm system. Here's how to train this muscle. Next time you feel a surge of emotion, whether it's road rage or workplace irritation, freeze. Literally, count to 3. In that space, ask, is this impression true? Is it useful? You'll start noticing how many reactions are autopilot scripts, not deliberate choices. Seneca called this owning your impulses instead of being owned by them. A practical trick: keep a pause phrase handy. It could be as simple as, is this necessary? Or what's the wise move here? Even the act of reaching for that phrase creates the buffer Stoics champion. Over time, you'll catch yourself before snapping at a loved one or spiraling over a minor setback. This isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about responding with intention. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you interpret what happens that matters. Master the discipline of assent, and you'll transform impulsive heat into the kind of calm, clear-headed power that turns obstacles into opportunities. And speaking of turning obstacles upside down, that brings us to our next Stoic superpower: reframing challenges as hidden advantages. Now, let's dive into one of the most empowering Stoic practices: turning obstacles upside down. This isn't just about staying positive, it's about rewiring your perception so that what seems like a setback becomes fuel for growth. Take Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher. Born into slavery and later crippled by a leg injury, he could have seen himself as a victim. Instead, he famously said his lameness forced him to focus on what he could control: his mind. Without it, he might have never become the philosopher who shaped centuries of thought. This is the Stoic art of alchemy, transforming leaden hardships into golden opportunities. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Imagine a wrestler using an opponent's resistance to leverage a throw. That's the mindset. When life shoves you, you pivot and use that momentum. History's full of these flips. Beethoven's deafness, it sharpened his inner hearing, leading to his late masterpieces. Roosevelt's polio, it forged the resilience that guided a nation through crisis. The pattern's clear, the very thing meant to break them became their breakthrough. Here's how to apply it. Next time you hit a roadblock, a rejected proposal, a failed project, even a personal loss, ask, what's the hidden gift here? Maybe the rejection frees you for a better opportunity. Maybe the failure teaches a lesson success never could. The Stoics called this perception not changing the event, but changing how you see it. Try this reframe drill. Write down 3 current challenges. For each, brainstorm how it could secretly serve you. Lost your job, time to build new skills. Betrayed by a friend, a chance to strengthen boundaries. Even small annoyances like a traffic jam can become moments to practice patience or listen to a podcast. This isn't naive optimism, it's strategic recalibration. As Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Master this and you'll stop seeing obstacles and start seeing stepping stones. And speaking of stepping stones, our next Stoic tool takes this even deeper. modeling your decisions after the wisest minds in history. Now, let's explore another powerful Stoic practice, modeling the sage. Imagine having a personal advisor whispering wisdom in your ear whenever life throws you a curveball. That's exactly what the Stoics did by asking themselves, what would Zeno do? Or how would Marcus Aurelius handle this? They didn't just admire these philosophers from a distance, they used them as living templates for making better decisions. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, faced shipwrecks and financial ruin before building his philosophy. Instead of crumbling, he turned his losses into lessons. When you're stuck in a tough spot, channel that same clarity. Ask yourself, if the wisest version of me were here right now, what would they choose? This mental shortcut cuts through confusion and aligns your actions with Stoic principles. Here's how to put it into practice. First, pick a Stoic role model, someone whose resilience and wisdom inspire you. It could be Epictetus for his discipline, Seneca for his calm under pressure, or even a modern figure who embodies Stoic values. Then, when you're torn between options, pause and visualize them in your shoes. Would they obsess over gossip? No, they'd focus on what's within their control. Would they panic over a delayed flight? No, they'd see it as time to reflect or read. This isn't about perfection. Even the great Stoics stumbled. The power lies in the question itself, forcing you to step outside your emotions and tap into timeless wisdom. Try it today. The next time you're about to react angrily or procrastinate, hit the mental pause button and ask, what would my Stoic mentor do here? And just like that, you're no longer navigating life's chaos alone. You've got 2,000 years of proven insight backing your choices. Now, let's take this a step further with a strategy the Stoics used to lock in their discipline before temptation could even knock on the door. Now, let's talk about a clever trick the Stoics used to stay on track: pre-commitment strategies. Think of it like setting up guardrails for your future self. The Stoics knew temptation would come, so they didn't wait for the moment of weakness. They made decisions in advance when their minds were clear and their resolve was strong. Take the ancient philosopher Cato the Younger. He was famous for his unshakable integrity, but he didn't leave it to chance. He'd publicly declare his principles, like refusing bribes, so backing down later would mean public shame. That's pre-commitment in action. By tying his hands ahead of time, he removed the option of wavering when pressure hit. Here's how you can apply this today. Start small. Tell a friend you're giving up social media for a week, or leave your credit card at home before walking into a store. The act of declaring it, whether to others or even just writing it down, creates accountability. Your future self now has to face the cost of breaking that promise. The Stoics also used mental pre-commitment. Before entering a stressful situation, they'd rehearse their response. Marcus Aurelius would write reminders like, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I'll meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, but none of these things can deter me. By scripting his reactions beforehand, he bypassed impulsive emotions when challenges arose. This isn't about rigidity. It's about designing your environment and mindset to support your goals. When you pre-commit, you're not fighting temptation in the moment. You've already won the battle by outsmarting it. And speaking of outsmarting obstacles, let's explore another Stoic tool that helps you stay flexible when life doesn't go as planned. Now let's shift to another powerful Stoic mindset hack: the reserve clause. This is all about adding a simple but game-changing phrase to your goals, fate permitting. The Stoics understood that life is unpredictable, so they built flexibility into their plans. Instead of saying, I will definitely succeed, they'd say, I will succeed if nothing prevents me. This isn't about doubting yourself, it's about recognizing that some things are beyond your control. Think of it like packing an umbrella for a picnic. You hope for sunshine, but you're ready for rain. The reserve clause does the same for your goals. It keeps you committed to your effort while releasing your grip on the outcome. Take the example of a job interview. Without the reserve clause, you might think, I have to get this job, tying your self-worth to the result. but with it you'd say, "I'll give my best performance, fate permitting." This subtle shift removes the desperation and helps you stay calm, focused, and adaptable whether you get the offer or not. Marcus Aurelius used this daily. He'd write, "Today I'll tackle my tasks unless life has other plans." By acknowledging the unknown, he avoided frustration when interruptions arose. The reserve clause turned setbacks into expected detours, not personal failures. Here's how to practice it. Next time you set a goal, add, "if nothing interferes," or "as far as it depends on me." This keeps you striving without the stress of demanding certainty from an uncertain world. You'll find yourself putting in the same effort but with far less anxiety. And speaking of anxiety, let's move to another Stoic tool that dissolves it by reminding us of our place in something bigger. Now, let's explore another profound Stoic principle that shifts our perspective entirely: sympatheia, or interconnectedness. This idea reminds us that we're not isolated individuals but threads woven into a much larger tapestry. The Stoics believed that everything in the universe is connected, and recognizing this dissolves the petty ego battles that drain our energy. Think of it like a single wave in the ocean. The wave might feel separate, but it's part of something vast and powerful. When we adopt this mindset, small conflicts like office politics or social slights lose their sting. Instead of reacting defensively, we see others as collaborators in a shared journey. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this. He'd remind himself, "What harms the hive harms the bee." When someone acted unfairly, he didn't take it personally. He saw their actions as part of a larger system, which helped him respond with patience rather than anger. This isn't about ignoring injustice, but approaching it with clarity, not ego. Here's how to practice sympatheia daily. Next time you feel frustrated by someone, pause and ask, how does this person's struggle reflect a bigger pattern? Maybe their rudeness stems from stress, or their competitiveness comes from insecurity. This zoomed-out view fosters empathy and reduces unnecessary friction. The beauty of interconnectedness is that it replaces resentment with curiosity. Instead of thinking, "Why are they against me?" you'll start asking, "What's really going on here?" That shift alone can transform tense relationships into opportunities for growth. And speaking of growth, let's turn to another Stoic practice that helps us step back and observe life with even greater clarity. Now, let's shift our focus to a powerful Stoic tool that helps us navigate life's chaos with calm precision: the art of withdrawal. This practice isn't about physically retreating from the world, but mentally stepping back to observe situations as if you were a detached advisor. Imagine you're watching a scene unfold from a balcony above, free from the emotional whirlwind below. The Stoics called this taking the view from above. But with a twist, it's not just about perspective, it's about creating space between you and your reactions. When someone cuts you off in traffic or a colleague undermines you, instead of immediately reacting, practice withdrawal. Picture yourself pausing, as if hitting an invisible mental pause button, and asking, "What would a wise mentor say about this?" Epictetus was a master of this. He taught that we suffer not because of events but because of our judgments about them. By mentally withdrawing, we strip away the layers of emotion and see the raw facts. That rude comment, "It's just sound waves," the missed promotion, a decision made by others, not a verdict on your worth. Here's how to make withdrawal a habit. Next time you feel your pulse quicken in frustration, take 3 deliberate breaths and visualize yourself stepping out of your body. Observe the situation as if you're giving advice to a friend. Would you tell them to scream or to respond with composed clarity? This tiny gap between stimulus and response is where Stoic wisdom thrives. The magic of withdrawal is that it doesn't suppress emotions, it reframes them. Anger becomes data, anxiety becomes a signal to prepare, not panic, and over time you'll find that most battles aren't worth your inner peace. Up next, we'll explore how Stoics redefine what truly matters, shifting focus from external validation to something unshakable. Now let's turn to something the Stoics held as the ultimate measure of a person: not wealth, not fame, but character. In a world that often equates success with external markers, job titles, social media followers, the car you drive, Stoicism flips the script entirely. The ancient Stoics believed that the only true good is virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Everything else, they called them indifference, preferred perhaps, but never essential to your worth. Think about how much energy we waste chasing approval or comparing ourselves to others. A promotion falls through and we feel crushed. Someone gets more likes and we question our value. But what if, like the Stoics, we anchored our self-worth to something unshakable, the quality of our character? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, ruled an empire but wrote in his private journal, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be." Be one. Here's the power of this mindset. When you define yourself by your virtues, how honestly you speak, how resiliently you face adversity, how fairly you treat others, no external setback can diminish you. Lose your job, your integrity remains. Face criticism, your courage stands firm. Society's metrics become background noise because you're playing by a different scoreboard. Practically, this means auditing where you invest your self-esteem. Next time you feel envy or insecurity creeping in, ask, is this about my character or someone else's highlight reel? The Stoic focus on virtue isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every small act of honesty, every moment of patience is a brick in the fortress of your self-respect. And when that foundation is solid, something remarkable happens. You stop needing the world to validate you because you've already decided what makes you valuable. Coming up, we'll examine why Stoics trained themselves to meet both praise and criticism with the same calm indifference. Now, let's shift our focus to something the Stoics considered a true test of inner strength: how we handle praise and criticism. The Stoics didn't just dismiss flattery or insults as unimportant. They actively trained themselves to meet both with the same calm indifference. Why? Because they understood that relying on external validation is like building your house on sand. It shifts with every opinion, leaving you unstable. Take Marcus Aurelius again. As emperor, he was surrounded by people eager to flatter him or undermine him. Yet in his writings, he repeatedly reminds himself, it's not what others say or do that harms you, but your judgment of it. The Stoics believed that praise and blame are two sides of the same coin. Both are outside your control, and neither defines your worth. Here's the radical insight: when you stop craving approval, you free yourself from the need for it. Imagine someone compliments your work. A Stoic would acknowledge it politely but not cling to it as proof of their value. Conversely, if criticism comes, they'd examine it for truth without letting it shake their self-assurance. The goal isn't to become cold or unfeeling, but to anchor confidence where it can't be eroded in your own principles. Practically, this means catching yourself when you feel a rush of pride from praise or a sting from disapproval. Ask, does this change who I am? Does it alter my ability to act with integrity? Over time, you'll notice something powerful. Your sense of worth becomes self-sustaining. You'll speak, create, and lead not for applause, but because it aligns with your character. And that's where real freedom lies. When you're no longer tossed by the waves of others' opinions, you navigate life with unshakable steadiness. Next, we'll explore how the Stoics used the awareness of life's brevity not to paralyze us, but to propel us toward meaningful action. Now, let's turn our attention to one of the most sobering yet empowering Stoic practices: the awareness of life's fleeting nature. Seneca, in his famous essay on the shortness of life, makes a striking observation. It's not that we have too little time, but that we waste much of it. The Stoics didn't see mortality as a reason for fear, but as a wake-up call to live with purpose. Picture this: you're handed a glass of water with a single drop of ink. At first, it's barely noticeable, but the longer you wait, the more it spreads until the entire glass is clouded. That's how Seneca viewed time. Every moment we delay, every hour spent on trivialities, darkens the clarity of our lives. The Stoic approach isn't about morbid fixation on death, but about using its inevitability to sharpen our focus. Here's the key distinction: urgency isn't anxiety. Anxiety paralyzes, but urgency mobilizes. When you truly grasp that your days are numbered, you stop postponing what matters. Seneca wrote, "Putting things off is the biggest waste of life." The person who acts with this awareness doesn't rush frantically. They move deliberately, cutting through distractions like a ship sailing straight to harbor. Think of it as a daily filter. Before committing to a task, ask, if I only had a year to live, would this be how I'd spend my time? Not to induce panic, but to highlight alignment. The Stoics weren't suggesting you abandon all leisure, but to savor it mindfully, like enjoying a meal instead of mindlessly scrolling. This practice has a ripple effect. When you stop wasting time on resentment, gossip, or superficial pursuits, you reclaim energy for what builds your inner game: learning, creating, and connecting deeply. Seneca's remedy: treat time as currency, spend it where it appreciates. And here's the paradox: the more you accept life's brevity, the richer each moment becomes. Next, we'll uncover how small, daily acts of discipline forge the unbreakable habits of a Stoic mind. Now, let's zoom in on something deceptively simple yet profoundly transformative: the power of small, daily acts. The Stoics knew that self-mastery isn't built in grand gestures, but in the quiet consistency of micro-practices. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't start by running 26 miles on day one. You build stamina one step at a time. Stoicism works the same way. Take something as basic as counting to 10 silently when you feel irritation rising. It's a tiny pause, but that pause is where wisdom interrupts impulse. Every time you do this, you're not just calming down in the moment, you're rewiring your brain's default response. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the practice of withholding automatic reactions to create space for choice. Here's why these small acts matter. They're the repetitions that build mental muscle memory. Just as a pianist practices scales daily to play concertos effortlessly, Stoics train through micro-exercises to handle life's crescendos with grace. Epictetus advised, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. That means embracing the awkwardness of pausing mid-argument or walking away from gossip, actions that might seem trivial but compound into unshakable discipline. Try this today. Pick one micro moment to practice. Maybe it's taking a deep breath before checking your phone in the morning, or pausing to reflect before complaining. These aren't just habits, they're rehearsals for the bigger challenges. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Each small act is a brushstroke shaping that color. The beauty of this practice: it's accessible to anyone, anywhere. You don't need a philosophy degree or a silent retreat, just the willingness to turn daily friction into training ground. And over time, these micro-wins stack up until what once required effort becomes second nature. Next, we'll explore the critical 2-second gap between life's triggers and your responses, the space where Stoic principles come alive. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit: the pause. Not just any pause, but that critical 2-second gap between what happens to you and how you respond. This is where Stoicism comes alive, where philosophy stops being theory and starts being action. Imagine this: someone cuts you off in traffic, or your boss sends a frustrating email. In that instant, before the anger flares up, there's a tiny window, a space where you get to decide what happens next. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, but you can think of it as your mental reset button. It's the difference between reacting on autopilot and choosing a response that aligns with your principles. Here's how it works. When something triggers you, your brain's first impulse is emotional. That's natural. But Stoicism trains you to insert a pause, like a buffer between the spark and the flame. In those 2 seconds, you ask yourself, is this within my control? Does my reaction serve me? What would wisdom look like here? That pause is where freedom lives. Think of it like a martial artist blocking a strike. The attack happens fast, but the block is practiced, deliberate. Over time, those 2 seconds stretch. What felt impossible to resist becomes a moment of clarity. Seneca put it best, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Not suppression, not denial, just a breath, a beat, a chance to step back before stepping forward. Try this today. Pick one trigger. Maybe it's a noisy coworker or a long line at the store. When it happens, don't react, pause, count to 2 silently. In that space, remind yourself, this isn't good or bad until I label it. Then choose your response, don't let it choose you. The beauty of this practice, it's invisible to everyone but you. No one sees the pause, but everyone feels the difference. Over time, those 2 seconds become your superpower, the quiet moment where you reclaim agency over your emotions. Next, we'll dive into how focusing on what you can control, your effort, not the outcome, builds unshakable inner peace. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something athletes understand better than anyone: the power of focusing on the process, not just the outcome. Picture a marathon runner. They don't control the weather, the competition, or even how their body will feel on race day. But they can control their training, their mindset, and the effort they put in every single mile. That's Stoicism in action. Here's the core idea: outcomes are fickle. You can do everything right and still fall short, but your effort, that's yours. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. They called it focusing on what's up to you, your actions, your discipline, your attitude. When you tie your self-worth to medals, promotions, or external validation, you hand over your peace of mind to chance. But when you focus on the process, you reclaim it. Think of it like a basketball player practicing free throws. They don't obsess over whether the shot will go in during the game. That's out of their hands. Instead, they focus on their form, their routine, the repetition. The more they trust the process, the less they fear the outcome. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacles, the missed shots, the setbacks are part of the training. This mindset isn't just for athletes. Apply it to your work, your relationships, even your personal growth. Ask yourself, did I give my best effort today? Did I act with integrity? Did I learn something? These are the metrics that matter. The rest, the results, the opinions, the luck, those are just noise. Here's a simple exercise. Pick one goal you care about. Now, write down 3 things you can control in pursuit of that goal: your preparation, your persistence, your perspective. Every day, measure yourself by those, not by the finish line. Over time, you'll find something surprising. The less you chase outcomes, the more they tend to find you. Next, we'll explore how mapping your energy toward what you can influence, not what you can't, reduces frustration and fuels progress. Now, let's take this idea of focusing on what you can control and expand it into something even more powerful: the circle of influence. You might recognize this concept from Stephen Covey's work, but its roots go all the way back to Stoicism. Think of it like a mental map that helps you direct your energy wisely, so you spend less time frustrated and more time making progress. Here's how it works. Draw 2 circles in your mind. The outer circle is your circle of concern, all the things you worry about but can't control, like the economy, other people's opinions, or traffic jams. The inner circle is your circle of influence, the things you can actually do something about, like your habits, your reactions, and the effort you put into your goals. The Stoics knew that the more time you spend in the outer circle, the more powerless you feel. But when you focus on the inner circle, you regain agency. Take a simple example. Imagine you're stuck in a job you dislike. The outer circle includes things like your boss's mood, company policies, or the job market. The inner circle, your skills, your networking, your mindset, and the steps you take to explore new opportunities. Every minute spent complaining about the outer circle drains you. Every minute invested in the inner circle moves you forward. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He ruled an empire, yet his journal is filled with reminders to focus only on his own judgments and actions. That's the key. Your circle of influence isn't about ignoring problems, it's about attacking them where you have leverage. Try this exercise. List 3 things stressing you out right now. Now ask, which of these fall in my circle of influence? For the ones that don't, practice letting go. For the ones that do, brainstorm one small action you can take today. This shift alone can turn anxiety into momentum. Next, we'll dive into a Stoic tool that helps you detach from external validations, something society obsesses over, but the Stoics saw as irrelevant to true strength. Now, let's tackle a concept that might sound counterintuitive at first: Stoic indifference. But don't let the word fool you. This isn't about apathy or not caring at all. It's about understanding what truly deserves your emotional energy. The Stoics called things like money, reputation, and even health indifference, not because they don't matter, but because they don't define your worth. Here's the breakdown. The Stoics split indifference into 2 categories: preferred and dispreferred. Preferred indifference are things like wealth, good health, or praise, things that make life smoother but aren't essential to your character. Dispreferred indifference, poverty, illness, criticism, things you'd rather avoid but again, don't determine your virtue. The key insight: neither category dictates whether you're living well. Your choices, your integrity, your resilience, those are what count. Imagine 2 people. One has wealth but uses it selfishly. The other struggles financially but acts with generosity and courage. Who's truly thriving? The Stoics would say the second person, because externals are just tools, it's how you wield them that matters. Epictetus drove this home with a simple test. He said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. In other words, if you tie your self-worth to reputation, you'll always be at the mercy of others' opinions. But if you focus on what you control, your actions, your principles, you become unshakable. This doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue goals or avoid hardship. It means you don't let outcomes hijack your peace. For example, you might prefer to land a promotion, but if you don't, your worth isn't diminished. You might prefer criticism, but if it comes, it doesn't have to derail you. Try this reframe. Next time you face a setback, a missed opportunity, a harsh comment, ask, is this thing I'm upset about essential to my character? If not, acknowledge it, learn from it, but don't let it own you. That's the power of indifference. It turns life's ups and downs into fuel for growth, not threats to your core. Up next, we'll explore a Stoic decision-making tool so sharp it cuts through overthinking like a blade: the Stoic fork. Now, let's sharpen your decision-making with one of the most practical tools in Stoicism, the Stoic fork. Picture this: you're staring at a problem, turning it over in your mind, and the more you think, the heavier it feels. Epictetus cuts through that noise with a razor-sharp question. Is this within your control or not? That's the fork in the road. If it's solvable, take action. If it's unsolvable, accept it. No third option, no endless loops of worry. Think of it like traffic. You hit a red light. Can you change it? No. So what's the Stoic move? You relax, you wait. You don't waste energy raging at the signal. But if your car has a flat tire, that's solvable. You grab the jack and get to work. The fork forces clarity, and clarity kills rumination. Here's why this works. Our brains love to obsess over hypotheticals. What if they reject me? What if I fail? The Stoic fork slams the brakes on that. Either you can influence the outcome, so focus on action, or you can't, so focus on your response. No middle ground. Try it today. Next time you're stuck on a problem, ask, can I fix this? If yes, what's step 1? If no, how do I adjust my mindset? That's the Stoic fork in action, simple, brutal, and liberating. Coming up, we'll see how Stoics mastered the art of measured response, turning even the most chaotic situations into opportunities for calm. Now, let's talk about something we've all witnessed, maybe even experienced firsthand: the modern epidemic of overreaction. You know what I mean, that coworker who blows up over a typo in an email, or the friend who spirals into panic because their phone battery hits 10%. Compare that to Seneca, who faced one of the most volatile tyrants in history, Nero, and still refused to let chaos dictate his inner state. That's the Stoic art of proportional response, meeting life's fires not with gasoline but with precision and calm. Think about it like this: when you stub your toe, the pain is real, but screaming for 5 minutes doesn't help it heal faster. Seneca would say the same about emotional stubbed toes. Nero's cruelty, unjust, yes, but losing your composure over what you can't change, that only hands the tyrant more power. Stoics train to match their reactions to the actual weight of the event, no more, no less. Here's how you can practice this today. Next time you feel that surge of frustration, maybe in traffic or when someone cuts in line, pause. Ask, does this deserve the energy I'm about to spend? Could I channel this into something useful instead? Proportional response isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about directing it wisely. What makes this so powerful is how it flips the script. Most people react first, think later. Stoics reverse that. They ask, what's the most effective response, not the loudest. That's how Seneca could write letters on philosophy while Nero plotted against him. His calm wasn't passive, it was a strategic choice. Up next, we'll explore the ultimate Stoic sanctuary, the inner citadel, where no external storm can breach your peace. But for now, try this before reacting, measure. That's the Stoic difference between adding fuel to the fire and mastering the flame. Now, let's step into the ultimate sanctuary of Stoic strength, the inner citadel. Picture this, a fortress so unshakable that no insult, failure, or external chaos can breach its walls. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, used this powerful metaphor to describe the mind's capacity to remain untouchable, no matter what storms rage outside. Think of it like a castle with towering walls. Outside, there might be battles, noise, and chaos, things you can't control, but inside, pure stillness. The inner citadel isn't about ignoring reality. It's about choosing what gets through the gates. Marcus himself ruled an empire while facing wars, betrayals, and plagues, yet his writings reveal a man anchored in unbreakable calm. Here's how you build yours. Start by recognizing that external events, traffic jams, criticism, even loss are just that, external. They knock on the door, but you decide whether to let them in. When frustration arises, pause and ask, does this deserve a place in my citadel? If not, leave it outside. What makes this practice transformative is its simplicity. You don't need to change the world, you just need to guard your inner space. Marcus didn't stop the Roman Empire's chaos, but he mastered his response to it. That's the power of the inner citadel. It turns you into the ruler of your own peace. Coming up, we'll explore how Stoics used their roles in life, parent, leader, friend, as compasses for ethical decisions. But for now, try this. The next time chaos strikes, visualize your citadel, stand inside it, and watch how quickly the noise fades. Now, let's shift our focus to how Stoicism turns everyday roles into a moral compass. Imagine this, you're not just a person making choices, you're a parent, a friend, a professional, a community member. Each of these roles comes with built-in responsibilities, and Stoics like Epictetus believed that embracing them is the key to living with integrity. Think of it like wearing different hats. When you're at work, your professional hat reminds you to act with diligence and fairness. At home, your parent or partner hat guides you toward patience and kindness. The beauty of role-based ethics is that it cuts through indecision. Instead of asking, what do I feel like doing, you ask, what does a good parent or leader or friend do in this situation? Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, constantly reminded himself of his roles. As a ruler, he owed justice to his people. As a student of philosophy, he owed discipline to himself. By framing his actions this way, he avoided being swayed by ego or momentary impulses. Here's how to apply it. First, list your core roles, the ones that truly define you. Then, when faced with a tough choice, step back and ask which role is most relevant. If you're tempted to snap at a coworker, your professional role might call for calm dialogue. If you're procrastinating on a project, your responsible adult role would demand focus. This isn't about rigidity, it's about alignment. By anchoring decisions to who you aspire to be in each role, you bypass fleeting emotions and act from a place of purpose. Up next, we'll uncover the surprising link between letting go of control and actually gaining more of it. But for now, try this. The next time you're torn between two choices, ask not what you want, but what your best self in that role would do. The answer often becomes crystal clear. Now, let's explore one of Stoicism's most counterintuitive truths, the paradox of control. At first glance, it seems backward. The less you cling to outcomes, the more effective you become. But think of an athlete in the zone. They're not obsessing over the scoreboard. They're fully immersed in the game, trusting their training. That's when magic happens. Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus put it bluntly, some things are up to us, others are not. The irony, when you stop white-knuckling results and focus solely on your effort, your preparation, your attitude, your actions, you often perform better. It's like trying to fall asleep. The harder you chase it, the more it eludes you. But relax into the process and rest comes naturally. Take public speaking. If you're fixated on applause, your delivery feels forced. But if you focus on serving the audience, sharing ideas clearly, connecting authentically, the nerves fade and your impact soars. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule Rome by micromanaging every outcome. He focused on ruling justly day by day and let the chips fall where they may. Here's how to apply this. First, identify where you're over-gripping. Is it a project at work, a relationship? Then, shift your mental spotlight from "what if I fail" to "what's the next right step?" Trust that doing your part with integrity is enough. The rest, it's not yours to command. This isn't passivity, it's precision. By releasing the illusion of total control, you free up energy for what truly matters, showing up fully in the present moment. And that's where real mastery begins. Next, we'll see how even the sternest Stoics knew the power of laughter. But for now, try this. The next time you feel tension around an outcome, ask, am I focusing on what I can control, or am I wasting effort on what I can't? The answer will point you back to your power. Now, let's lighten the mood with a surprising tool from the Stoic toolkit: humor. Yes, even the most disciplined philosophers knew the power of a well-timed laugh. Stoic humor wasn't about mockery or distraction. It was a razor-sharp way to cut through tension and expose life's absurdities. Take Epictetus, who joked about his own lameness, saying, "If I tried to be a wrestler, I'd be laughed at, but shouldn't I laugh first?" By poking fun at himself, he disarmed critics and showed that true strength lies in not taking yourself too seriously. Marcus Aurelius, too, used wit to keep perspective. He'd remind himself that even the most powerful emperor was just a little soul carrying a corpse, a darkly funny way to check his ego. This wasn't cynicism, it was clarity. When we laugh at our struggles, we shrink them down to size. Imagine fretting over a missed promotion, then picturing Seneca's advice. You're upset because you didn't get a nicer cage. Suddenly, the sting fades. Here's how to channel Stoic humor today. First, notice when you're gripping an issue too tightly. Then ask, how would this look in a comedy sketch? The gap between drama and punchline reveals how much we inflate problems. Second, practice self-deprecation. Tripped in public, channel Epictetus. Well, that was a graceful bow to gravity. It's not denial, it's defiance, turning embarrassment into empowerment. Stoic laughter is rebellion against life's chaos. It whispers, "You think this rattles me? Watch me smile." Next, we'll zoom out further to the ultimate perspective shift, but for now, try this. The next time stress mounts, crack a joke about it. Not to dismiss the challenge, but to remind yourself that even storms are lighter when you dance in the rain. Now let's step back and stretch our perspective beyond the immediate moment. The 30th and final Stoic tool is about zooming way out to see life through the lens of time. Imagine standing on a mountaintop, looking down at the tiny roads and houses below. That's the power of the long view. The Stoics called it the 10-year test, a simple but brutal question. Will this thing that's consuming me today even matter in a decade? Marcus Aurelius used this mental shift constantly. Facing betrayal or political chaos, he'd ask, "How will this feel when I'm on my deathbed?" The answer often reduced his stress to dust. Seneca took it further, writing, "Why fear a setback when the universe itself will swallow it given enough time? This isn't nihilism, it's liberation." That rude email, the missed opportunity, the social slight, ask the 10-year test and watch their weight evaporate. Here's how to apply it. First, when emotions flare, pause and project forward. Picture yourself 10 years older, wiser, looking back. Would this moment even register? Second, flip the script for gratitude. That mundane dinner with family, the quiet walk at sunset. These are the moments future you will ache to relive. The long view isn't just a stress reliever, it's a spotlight on what truly lasts. Stoicism's final gift is this: life's sharpest pains are like ink in water, they dissipate with time. So breathe deep, the storm you're weathering now, it's already passing. And with that, we've journeyed through all 30 ways Stoicism fortifies your inner game, tools not just to survive chaos, but to thrive within it. And just like that, we've walked through all 30 Stoic tools designed to strengthen your inner game. Think of these not as abstract philosophy, but as a practical toolkit, each method a different wrench or hammer for life's inevitable repairs. You don't need to master them all at once. Start small. Pick 2 or 3 that resonate most, maybe the dichotomy of control to reduce anxiety, or negative visualization to cultivate gratitude. Practice them daily like mental push-ups. Here's your challenge for the next 7 days. Whenever stress hits, pause and ask yourself, what would a Stoic do? Would Marcus Aurelius rage over that traffic jam? Would Epictetus crumble under criticism? Use their wisdom as your compass. Then, drop a comment below. Tell us which practices clicked for you, where you struggled, or how Stoicism shifted your perspective. Your stories inspire this community. Remember, philosophy isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Every moment you choose reason over reaction, you're building unshakable inner strength. So hit subscribe if you haven't, we're just getting started. Ring the bell so you never miss a tool for your mental toolkit. Now go out there and meet life's chaos with calm, clarity, and a Stoic's quiet confidence. The world needs more of that. See you in the comments.